First thing we got to do is hope that we got the machine turned on. So, well, we're in the Livestock Exchange building in Kansas City, Missouri. It's the third Livestock Exchange building built in this Stockyards area. The first one was in Kansas. The second one, I believe, straddled the state line between Kansas and Missouri, and this one is clearly one block into the state of Missouri. It was at the center of what was the second largest stockyards in the United States. Almost inconceivable to me, but on the biggest days they could receive by rail as many as 60,000 cattle in a day, keep track of them, one carload at a time, and pen them area. So had quite a history. Really, it was the economic epicenter of this entire region for a great many years, and with the advent of the large feedlots, the decentralization of the cattle feeding and therefore the packing industry, by 1991, when we bought the area and the building, it had become pretty much a derelict and no longer served as a regional center. You know, the stockyard started as really a dropping off point or a resting point, really, from Dodge City and places farther west for cattle that were going by rail to Chicago and other centers. And it started off as just a watering and feeding and resting location for the cattle, and just sort of grew up by accident or on purpose as a trading center. It was a center that would receive cattle from as many as 46 states at any given day, and would ship cattle back out to as many as 46 states in a given day. Well, obviously not a very efficient logistical operation, and it was a good thing and a very positive thing as the feedlots developed and decentralized, that it would develop in a way that no longer required the necessity for a terminal market like this was. It was a huge economic impact in the city. There were 5 rail lines that could unload cattle simultaneously here in its heyday. There were 12 packing plants. There were 4,000 men working here. There, I believe, at one point, 470 commission firms and other related firms in this building alone. So it was a big deal. It really was a big deal in Kansas City. Hard to find any multi-generational people in Kansas City who don't have a direct connection with this building and with the stockyards in some way. You know, I'm not so much after 21 years of being here, but early on, it was a regular occurrence that people would come to my office to tell me stories about their father or their grandfather in the stockyards. A few years after I bought the building, a gentleman came in, an older gentleman himself came in and said that his father had worked here his entire life in the stockyards, and he'd always ridden the same saddle his entire working life that he worked here. And he just knew that his dad, if he were still alive, would love to think that the saddle was in the building and would stay in the building. And so he gave it to me, which I thought was a very touching story of how people feel about this building, the Livestock Exchange building. There is a certain magic inherent in the building that continues.